Book of Heaven, Volume 26, Part 2. April 21st, 1929. How the Divine Will is Fullness. How Adam, before sinning, possessed the fullness of sanctity. The Virgin and all created things possess this fullness. My abandonment in the divine fiat continues. I feel I cannot be without remaining in my dear inheritance that my sweet Jesus, with so much love, gave me, saying to me, "Daughter, I entrust it to you, that you may never go out of it, and may make your continuous echo resound from one point to another, in such a way that all of heaven may hear that our endless inheritance of our fiat on earth is not isolated, but is inhabited by our little daughter. She will always go around within it, to keep company with all the acts of our will, and with all of its apartments. Therefore it is dear and sweet to me, living in my celestial inheritance. I would feel life missing in me without it. So while I was going around in it, my always lovable Jesus was going around together with me, and all love told me, "My daughter, my divine will is all fullness. There is nothing that it does not possess. Immensity of light, unreachable sanctity, endlessness without boundaries, incessant generation. It sees everything. It feels and molds everything. All this is its nature in my divine fiat. Therefore, its acts possess the fullness of all goods." So in order to be able to enclose even a single act of it in the depth of the soul, it is necessary that she empty herself of all of herself, and return to the void of her nothingness, as in the act in which she was created, so that my divine volition may find the space of the nothingness, to be able to deposit an act of fullness of its own, that is such that, possessing the incessant generative virtue, one act calls for another, in a way that nothing must be lacking, neither fullness of light, of sanctity, of love, of beauty, nor multiplicity of divine acts. Therefore the sanctity done in my divine will possesses all the fullness, but so much so that if God wanted to give her more, he would not find the space in which to put more light, more beauty. We would say, "You are all beautiful, nor can we add for you any more beauty, so beautiful you are. You are the work of our volition, and this is enough for you to be a work worthy of us." And the soul will say, "I am the triumph of your divine fiat. Therefore I am all rich and beautiful. I possess the fullness of an act of your divine will that fills me completely. And if you wanted to give me more, I would not know where to put it." Such was the fullness of the sanctity of Adam, before he fell into the maze of his human will, because he possessed the first act of our fiat, generator of his creation, and therefore he possessed fullness of light, of beauty, of strength, of grace. All the qualities of our fiat were reflected in him, and embellished him so much that we ourselves felt enraptured in looking at him, in seeing in him, so well sculpted, our dear image that our divine being formed in him. And this is why, even though he fell, he did not lose the life nor the regenerative hope of our fiat, because since he had possessed the fullness of its act in the beginning of his life, it did not want to lose the one who had possessed it. The divinity felt so bound to Adam that it did not feel like banishing him forever. It takes too much to lose what once was possessed by our fiat. Our strength would feel weak. Our love, the fire it possesses, would shrink in order not to do it. It would be the true divine embarrassment to lose the one who has possessed even just one act of the fullness of our will. Such fullness of sanctity was possessed by the height of the sovereign queen, and therefore there is no void in her. She filled herself so much as to possess seas of light, of graces, of beauty, of power. Her fullness is such and so great that we have no place in which to put, and she has no place in which to receive, because she is the only celestial creature who lived under the empire of the act of our divine fiat, and who can say, I am an act of divine will, and in this is all the secret of my beauty, power, greatness, and even of my maternity. What can one act of our fiat not do? It can do anything. Its prerogative is the fullness of everything. An act of it is the sun, and it possesses the fullness of the light. And if one could ask the sun, would you like to have more light? It would answer, I have so much of it that I can give light to all, and while I give it, I do not lose it, because I possess the source of the light of the act of the divine fiat. The sky is an act of it, and therefore it extends everywhere. Its fullness is such that it finds no place in which to extend more its azure drapes. The wind is an act of our divine fiat, and therefore it possesses the fullness of the empire, of the strength. Who can resist the strength of the wind? No one. It makes a fool of everything, and with its ruling strength it uproots cities and trees, and it lifts up and knocks down everything as if it were straw. All creation, each created thing, possesses the fullness of the act of our fiat, and therefore not one thing is poor. They are all rich in the fullness wanted by our divine volition, nor is anything in need of anything. They are rich of their own, by nature. The sea possesses the fullness of the waters, the earth the fullness of the plants, and of many varieties of plants, because all of them are births from the act of our divine volition. Now, my daughter, the living in my divine will is precisely this: to possess and enjoy the fullness of the divine goods, in such a way that nothing must be lacking to her, neither sanctity, nor light, nor beauty. They will be the true births from my adorable Fiat. April 28th, 1929. How the divine Fiat renders the creature inseparable from God. Divine overflowing for the creature. Everything is safe in one who lives in the Fiat, while everything is in danger in one who does the human will. I was praying my round in the divine Fiat to follow its acts in the creation, and as I reached Eden, my poor mind paused in the act in which it created man, and breathing over him, it infused life in him. And I prayed Jesus to breathe over my poor soul, to infuse in me the first divine breath of creation, so that with their regenerative breath, the breath of the three divine persons, I might begin my life again, all in the Fiat, according to the purpose for which they had created me. But while I was doing this, my sweet Jesus came out from within my interior, as though in the act of wanting to breathe over me. And he told me, "My daughter, it is our will that the creature ascend again into our womb, in our creative arms, that we may give her again our continuous breath, and in this breath give her the current that generates all goods, joys, and happinesses. But in order for us to be able to give this breath, man must live in our will, because only in it can he receive it, and we give it. Our Fiat has such virtue as to render the creature inseparable from us, and what we do and are by nature, she can do by grace. In creating man, we did not put him at a distance from us. Rather, in order to have him together with us, we gave him our very divine will, that would give him the first act, to operate together with his Creator. This was the reason why our love, our light, our joys, our power, and beauty gushed out all together, and overflowing outside of our divine being, they spread the table before He whom with so much love we had formed with our creative hands, and generated with our very breath. We wanted to enjoy our work, see Him happy of our own happiness, embellished with our beauty, rich with our richness. More so, since it was our will for us to remain close to the creature, to operate together, and to amuse ourselves together with her. And games cannot be played from a distance, but in closeness. This is why, by necessity of creation, and in order to maintain intact our work and the purpose for which we had created it, the only means was to endow man with divine will that would preserve him just as he came out of our creative hands. He would enjoy all our goods, and we were to enjoy because he was happy. Therefore, so that man may return to his place of honor and enter once again to operate together with his Creator, and they may amuse themselves together, there are no means other than his re-entering into our Fiat, that it may bring him to us triumphantly, into our arms, that are waiting for him to clasp him tightly within our divine womb and say to him, "Finally, after 6,000 years, you have come back. You have gone wandering. You have experienced all evils, because there is no good without our Fiat. You have experienced enough, and have touched with your own hand what it means to go out of it. So never go out of it again, and come to rest and enjoy what is yours, because in our volition, everything was given to you. Therefore, my daughter, be attentive. We will give you everything if you live always in our Fiat. Our breath will take delight in breathing over you always, to make our joys, our light, our sanctity overflow upon you, and communicate to you the attitude of our works, that we may keep the little daughter, regenerated by our divine will, always together with us. Having said this, he withdrew within my interior, and I continued to follow the innumerable acts of the divine Fiat. And blessed Jesus continued, saying, "My daughter, it is a prerogative of my divine volition to place everything it possesses in safety. When it enters into the soul, as the possessor of her, it places all things in safety. It places sanctity, grace, beauty, all virtues in safety, and so that everything may be safe, it substitutes them in the soul with its own divine sanctity, its beauty, its virtues, all in a divine manner, and placing on her its seal that is untouchable by any change, it renders the creature untouchable by any danger. So for one who lives in my will, there is nothing to fear any more, because it has secured everything with its divine security. On the other hand, the human will renders everything unsafe, even sanctity itself. The virtues that are not under the continuous dominion of my Fiat are subject to continuous dangers and continuous oscillations. Passions have the ways open to put everything upside down and cast to the ground the virtues, the sanctity, formed with many sacrifices. If the continuous vivifying and nourishing virtue of my will is not present, that closes all doors and all ways to all evils, the human will has door and ways to let the enemy, the world, self-esteem, miseries, disturbances, enter, that are the woodworm of virtues and of sanctity. And when there is the woodworm, there is not sufficient strength to remain firm and persevering in good. Therefore everything is unsafe when my divine will does not reign. Moreover, the evil that our divine will does not reign in the midst of creatures is so great that all things are in continuous oscillation. Our very creation, all the goods of redemption, are intermittent, because not finding our Fiat reigning in the human family, they cannot always give the same goods. Even more, many times we have to make use of creation and redemption to arm them against man, because the human will puts itself against ours, and we, by justice, have to strike them in order to make them comprehend that because our will is not reigning, the human rejects our goods and forces us to punish them. The very glory that the creature gives us through creation and redemption is not fixed, but it changes at each act of the human will. Therefore, the little interest that the creature was to give us, of her love and of her glory, that she should give to us because we have given so much to her, is not even a fixed revenue, but everything is intermittent, because our will alone has the virtue of rendering unshakable and continuous its own acts, and those of the one in whom it reigns. So, until our divine fiat reigns, everything is unsafe. The creation, the redemption, the sacraments, they are all in danger, because the human will now abuses, now does not recognize he who has so much loved it and benefited it, now tramples our very goods under its feet. Therefore, until our will reigns, that will spread the divine order, its firmness and harmony, and its perennial day of light and of peace in the midst of creatures, everything will be in danger for him and for us. Our things themselves will remain in the nightmare of danger, and will not be able to give to creatures the abundant goods that they contain. May 4th, 1929. Power, enchantment, and empire of a soul who lives in the divine will. How everything turns around her, and she lords over her very creator. My abandonment in the divine fiat continues, and my poor mind pauses now in one point of it, now in another. But it is unable to go out from within the immensity of its endless boundaries. Even more, it finds neither ways nor doors to go out of it. And while I move within the divine volition, I leave it behind me. And while I leave it behind me, it presents itself before me with its majesty, to the right and to the left, and even under my steps. And it says to me, I am all for you, to give you my life, and to form it in you. So there is nothing else for you but my divine and adorable will. Now, while my poor mind was wandering within it, my sweet Jesus moved in my interior and told me, my daughter, one who lives in my divine volition, feels within herself the continuous and constant act of the divine operating of my divine fiat. This continuous act, generated by its power in the creature, has such strength, such empire over all, that it captivates all with its sweet enchantment, in such a way that all turn around her. The angels, the saints, the sacrosanct Trinity, the spheres, and all creation. All want to be spectators, to enjoy a scene so sweet, enchanting, and beautiful, of the continuous act of the creature in the divine fiat. She enters into the bank of the Supreme Being, and unifying herself in the continuous act of her Creator, she does nothing but put out, with her continuous act, the innumerable beauties, the sweetest sounds, the insuperable rarities of the qualities of her Creator. And what enraptures the most is to see her littleness, that, all daring and courageous, without fearing anything, as if she wanted to lord over her very Creator, to give him pleasure, to captivate him to herself, to ask him for the kingdom of his will upon earth, takes and puts out from within the divine bank all our joys and happinesses, as if she wanted to exhaust them. And seeing that she does not exhaust them, she does not tire, she repeats her continuous act in such a way that all wait for her to finish. And seeing that she does not finish, they press themselves around her, so much so that she becomes place of center, and all turn around so as not to lose a scene so consoling and never before seen. That is, the continuous act of the human littleness in the unity of the supreme Fiat. More so, since the continuous operating is only of God, and as one sees it being repeated by the creature, it causes the greatest surprises, and makes heaven and earth astonished. My little daughter, if you knew what a continuous act in my will means. This act is incomprehensible to created mind. The creature is the bilocator of our continuous act. She enters into our act, and makes arise, and puts out our rare beauty, our invincible love, our power that can do anything, our immensity that embraces everything, and showing them to all, she would like to say to all, "Look who is our Creator!" And we let her do it, and we enjoy in seeing that the littleness of the creature wants to give us our paradise and our divine being as ours and as her own. What can one who lives in our Fiat not do and not give to us? Anything. More so, since because this happy creature is on earth, by virtue of her free will, she possesses the conquering virtue that not even the saints in heaven possess. And with it, she can conquer and multiply whatever good she wants. And our will, that keeps her within itself, renders her the conqueror of our divine being. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 26, Part 2. Fiat.